What's up, YouTube? This is LA Prepper, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh my god, why is there so much blocking? Well, that's a good question. Let me see if I can try to explain it. It's definitely more blocking than required by code, but there's a couple reasons that I want to do it, mostly relating to the tile. So these floor joists are about 16 on center. That works pretty well because it's about 4 feet across. And then, of course, I actually kind of did the blocking. Not, I was almost considering moving it. In fact, I still could move this blocking. Um, I don't think I will, just because I'll end up screwing into the plywood, and that's going to be fairly robust. But some videos I was watching, they were talking about, it would be really better if you can get the screws through the flange into the blocking, so really get the blocking up as close as possible. And well, I'm not a professional plumber or framer, so I just kind of got it close and didn't realize I was missing out on that benefit. I guess I forgot that they're glued in there, so that might be, I might just leave them. To be honest, if I really wanted to get some stuff in there, I could sort of put some more blocks on the inside and then try to glue them and attach them and all this other hokey business. But yeah, I don't know about that. I think as long as the toilet is bolted down securely, the flange is fairly securely bolted down to the subfloor, which is very securely going to be bolted down, or liquid nails and then screws. I think the toilet will be okay. It will definitely be a million times better than it was. So why is there so much blocking? So we started off with this blocking, and then because I had that blocking there, I wanted to run this blocking and that blocking to sort of shore that up, because otherwise you just start kind of pushing the joists around. But then I had this gap, that gap, that gap, and that gap. And well, you might think, I think I have some, 19-30 seconds, which is just under 5/8 plywood, and it definitely can span that as far as strength, but the deflection is what I was worried about. And this is smaller than 5/8. This is about half. Actually, what is this? 3/8? Let me see. It's like 5/16. But anyways, I had this sort of board, like over like that. And granted, this board is a shelf, so it actually has this stringer which reinforces it right here. But right where I was stepping with that big, without that blocking there, I was just kind of feeling like there might be just an eensy bit too much deflection. Now, of course, when you have the subfloor screwed in and liquid nailed down, for it to deflect down, it's more distance to be deflected than not deflected. So that means you're pulling in, the plywood is, trying to pull in this way, this way, this way, and this way, like if I'm deflecting down here. So the liquid nails help stop that. The shear strength on the screw stops that. But the thing is, even a freaking millimeter of deflection, and forgive me for using the communist units, but I use them at work, so it's starting to rub off on me. Even a millimeter deflection, or 16th inch of deflection, I know those aren't equivalent, can be enough to cause tile to start cracking. Now we're going to put HardieBacker over the subfloor, which is fairly standard for tile insulation, so that's going to be a second layer of strength. But the thing is, the HardieBacker is, I guess it's mortared with thin set on, or it's thin setted onto the plywood, so there's not, a couple deflections and that can kind of crack. The thin set's not really meant to be strong in the lateral shear sense so much as the compression. It's really just kind of meant to like level stuff out. So the bottom line is, I really, really, really don't want to crack the tile, because as soon as you crack grout isn't really considered waterproof. That's why, and I doubt there's any sort of vapor barrier in the shower, but they generally advise, in fact, I believe it's code, that you have to use water barriers. More so on the shower. In fact, I was doing a lot of research, so it's more so on the shower area than the bathroom floor area. But I'm doing a couple things to kind of work on that. One is I've sloped the entire floor this way slightly, partly for the drainage and partly to help match the angle of the flange. So I've got way more blocking than I need here. It's not really every 12 inches. I sort of started with the center blocking, and then everything else is kind of centered off the existing blocking so that all the spans are as small as possible. So when I put the 1932nd plywood down over that with liquid nails and a bunch of 3-inch screws, that is going to be good and solid. And I mean, this floor already feels, super stable. I have it shimmed up from the concrete in a few different key locations, but even without that, it would be fairly stable. You might see a little bit of flex in the middle. But with the shims and the blocking, I mean, this floor is a little overbuilt, but that's okay. The materials and the time aren't that big of a deal. But if I crack just one tile and I didn't put this blocking in, I'd never forgive myself because, of course, having to tear it apart somebody else's crappy construction, not that hard. Tearing apart my much less crappy construction would be a lot harder. So I'm trying to avoid, once you liquid down the subfloor, you try to tear that up. Oh my gosh, you're just not having it, right? So there's a couple things I got to work on before I put the subfloor down. Maybe not that many, but I want the subfloor to come up under here and rest on this framing, and you'll notice that it didn't previously. So I've got a couple marks there, and I don't think I'm going to work on this today because I need to eat and take a shower and finish my laundry and other things. But I'm going to be cutting off this little booger probably tomorrow morning. I still haven't quite decided on the exact height. I will probably want to get the HardieBacker under there too, so I got to add that. In fact, I'm glad I thought about that right now. So it's going to be the subfloor, the HardieBacker, plus the mortar in between. Yeah, man, it's going to be trying to figure out how thick a floor is going to be when you have sort of weird stuff like liquid nails shouldn't add that much, but it's going to add a little bit. The plywood's a certain dimension, HardieBacker's a certain dimension, but the thin set rather between the Hardie board and the plywood subfloor is going to be sort of a questionable dimension. And then of course you're dealing with all these 32nds and 16ths, and man, everything would be easier if it was in millimeters, But anyways, so I got to work on that detail. I will probably finish framing this front area. It needs a couple strips. I really wish I had a table saw because I need to rip I need to rip some pressure treated stuff. And now that I think about it, it's kind of annoying because my normal saw blade just kind of took a crap on me. It just really didn't want to cut through these last couple pieces. It was getting all warm and just chugging. And when your saw doesn't cut like that, it can become really dangerous because you have to use too much force. Let's see how level we got this floor here. Pretty level. I kind of did the flush method to, just with my speed square or a piece of wood or something. And then I also had a level going across it so that I wasn't high. I don't mind being a little bit low in areas, but you don't want to be high and have that rocking. But it's pretty darn flush. It's going to be good enough. The plywood, yeah, that's kind of another reason is that my plywood was a little bit warped. So I really want to make sure that when I screw it down, I've got plenty of pieces to sort of secure it. I'm not quite sure how I want to frame the plywood in here. I'd like each joint to rest. I'd really love to be able to screw in the plywood nice and clean over a stud, because let's say I have two pieces meeting from either side. You really want to be in the middle of the floor joist rather, not stud. You want to be in the middle of the floor joist, but if you try to screw in the edge of the plywood, you're just going to blow it out. So I might even add some additional 2x4 blocking for the sole purpose of catching an edge of the plywood. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out. My first kind of thought, God, I really just don't know. But my first thought is sort of, You know, you could do one big piece, but I want to get the subfloor under that flange, which means I got to come in from both sides. So if I try to go like that side and that side, that's a little bit hokey, especially because I'm going to have to come like down and then down, but there's a couple features here that don't really allow that. So I will probably come in with a big rectangle, and of course the bigger piece you have, it tends to be a bit stronger than putting multiple pieces down. Plus it's just easier. So I'm probably going to come in with a big piece covering all this square. Then I'll probably come in with two pieces, kind of in like that and then in like that from the other side. At least that's my current plan. There's probably an easier way to do it, but and even now that I look at it, trying to come in down and then drop is kind of tricky over here. Somewhat less tricky on that side, so you know, who knows? I might just end up doing like 3 or 4 pieces on this side, like a couple big squares. But see, I really want the plywood to be strong around this toilet. There's just so many. I might put a piece of block. Yeah, gosh, I don't know. This is what kind of takes so long in the home repairs. All these dumb little decisions, like how am I going to cut the plywood in? How am I going to deal with, you know, these weird little details? This thing is just so hoopty. But at any rate, this video is way too long, and I just wanted to show you my super crazy blocking solution, and I can't wait to get some plywood down on this floor because it's going to feel a lot more done once I get some plywood down. But I don't have a jigsaw, and although I could rough it with a skill saw and a sawzall, I kind of really want it to fit snug under there, so I was going to get a jigsaw today, but I don't know if I have time, so I might have to get the jigsaw tomorrow. But in any event, thanks for watching. Stay ready. Keep your frames and subfloors and joists attached better than I do. And until next time, keep prepping.